context here is about the Father speaking in reference to the Son. And this is why I wanted to point you to verse 10. The Father calls the Son Lord, which is a direct quote in the context here back to Psalm 102 that you just agreed to is talking about Jehovah. So how in the world you can deny that the Father is actually calling the Son Jehovah here is beyond me.
Because in verse 8 is actually translated, God is your throne. So in
Which
verse
is still the
8,
same thing. It's still,
no, it's
he's
not.
still
It says
called,
it
but
says
look,
it
look, look,
says
look, look, look. Under
your
the
throne,
Son,
O
look,
God.
look, under the Son, what does he say? God is your throne. He calls the Son still God. You can't escape it. Hey, there he is. Eric, how you doing,
Hey,
man? My favorite Jehovah's Witness, brother. How you doing?
hey, what's up there, my man?
Right
I'm
on, man.
doing good.
Doing
I'm
good?
Yeah, I'm doing good. So far, so good.
Good. Yeah, we haven't
Yep.
chatted in a while, and looking forward to having another discussion with you down the road.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. Oh man.
You got the
So
sniffles? You okay? I'm gonna get like a virus through the computer. Gotta be careful now.
I know, right? Yeah, yeah. Don't want your computer to get sick, right?
I got an
That
Apple.
that that, that mess up.
I'm covered.
Oh, Apple. All right. Yeah. Nice. Nice. That's good.
Yeah,
That's good. Yeah, I was listening to everything. Definitely was taking out notes like always. So
cool.
but yeah, there was a lot of good stuff. Some stuff I did some research on real quick.
Yeah, go for it.
So let's see here. So basically, I guess starting with First Peter 3:15.
Okay, that's a good one. Yeah, yeah,
Uh, so the word here used for Lord,
yeah.
as we can see in verses 12 to 10 to 12, it is quoting from Isaiah 34 uh 12 to 16, which uses the name Jehovah or Yahweh. But also in these verses, Jehovah is called Lord. Even though the footnote both calls them Lord, they are separate individuals. Jesus may be the Lord as in First Corinthians 8 uh, 6b and Revelations 19:16, but Jesus is not sovereign Lord. That title only belongs to Jehovah God, the Father, and that title, Sovereign Lord Jehovah, is found 285 times in the Hebrew Scriptures, starting from Genesis 15:2, ending in Zechariah 9:14. Also, three times in the Greek Scriptures, Luke 2:29, Acts 4:24b, and Revelation 6:10. Jesus Christ the Son might be the King of Kings and the Lord of Lords, but he is not the God of gods and the Lord of Lords. That title only belongs to Jehovah God the Father, the one and only God. Deuteronomy 10:17 and First Corinthians 8:6a. Sovereign in Greek basically means master or ruler of all. And I'm going to stop there.
Okay. And quick question: is this your own notes you put together?
Yes, wrote down by myself.
Where did you find all this information from?
Where did I find all the information from?
Did you like take notes of where you got your notes from, or you can trace it?
Oh yeah, so basically I go through Bible Hub and I go through Google and basically, yeah, Basically, I do that kind of research. I do, you know, sometimes go through the Insight book, to the Watchtower .org.
Right.
I do use the Watchtower online library
Yeah.
for some research, but basically I first go through other resources of looking at the actual definition of things
Hmm.
through and within the Greek. Uh, and I like to use Bible Hub, and then after knowing the Greek words, what is the actual word in English and Greek, and then I look up the definition in Google to see what it actually means.
Do you
So
still
because
do you still believe in the New World Translation being an accurate translation, and how the Watchtower has given their little notes for certain verses? Do you still hold to that or no?
uh I do agree with most of the way they revise the Bible. Um on some things I do not agree on. For example, you know, removing the brackets.
Yeah.
Um, so so there's some things I don't agree on with that,
Right.
but that's not the
You're
important
that
thing.
that's
The important thing is actually that they're one of actually I'm not sure if any Bible actually has the name Jehovah at its full, which
right.
the name Jehovah is appear or Yahweh in Hebrew
Right.
appears over 7,000 times in Hebrew scriptures.
Right. Well,
And
here's what I wanted to ask you.
by my knowledge, they're the only one that have God's name in its full, and
Right.
that name is very important. Do you know why? Because in the Our Father prayer, what did Jesus tell us to do? Our Father in heaven, hallowed
Right.
be thy name. Let
Correct.
your name be sanctified.
Correct. So
So
here on
go
the
ahead.
screen, can you see the screen? Are you
Yeah,
looking at yeah, okay. So this is obviously just wanted to ask a question if you still agreed with the witnesses. 'Cause I know you're kind of still going through a transition. So this is the jw.org. This is 1 Peter 3:15, and that's what you first brought up a little while ago, right? Have you
that's
taken the time
correct.
have you taken the time to look at what they say over here? Have you looked at their footnotes and things like that already, or have you not got there yet?
No, right. No, you already showed this to me.
Okay.
So this is the old. This is not the revised version.
Well, they removed this from the revised one, but this is still
I
online.
understand that. I
Okay.
understand that. I
So
understand it's online.
my
I
point
understand.
though,
I
so
understand it's
were they
online.
but were they wrong? Are you saying they're wrong and this is no longer right?
No, they're giving it a general meaning.
No,
So
this is not a
so
meaning.
so
This is how
so
that's how the word can be translated from
yeah,
the text itself.
it's
These
a
are
general
actual,
meaning for Lord. That's
yeah.
what
So
that's
Lord
what
can be
is.
translated according to the Watchtower here as Lord God or as Jehovah God. Yes or no?
Yes, Lord can be translated as Jehovah God, but
Yeah.
it's a general definition for Lord.
So which
Is not trying to say that Jesus is Jehovah. It's not trying to say that, which means
well,
it goes contrary to to what you believe. So
it doesn't
basically, if
say
you're trying to
that.
say
Eric, one
that
second.
Jesus is
Eric, I
Jehovah,
let you talk for a bit. You gotta give me a second here, okay?
okay, I'm sorry,
So
go ahead.
so here, my point though is here, this is from the Watchtower. This is in
Okay,
their books, it's online. This is a little note how this word Lord, which is in Greek, Kyrios,
yeah,
how this word is used, how it can be translated. So the point here is just looking at the verse itself without all the other stuff we can talk about later. But right now, this is the main thing here. Peter says, sanctify the Christ as Lord in your hearts. Now, the point here, this is talking about Jesus Christ and as Lord, and this can be translated as Lord God or Jehovah God. Now, whether you agree with that or not, that's even the Watchtower agrees with that. The point is, how do you sanctify Christ as Lord in your heart? How do you do that, Eric? How do you live that out? How is Jesus Lord in your heart?
well, you have to know that he is. Lord. So because in First Corinthians, once again, in 8:6, it identifies Jesus Christ as Lord, but it identifies the Father as God, the only God. So there's a big difference there. So because in verse 5 it says there may be many gods, many so-called gods, and many so-called lords, but there's only one God, the Father,
So my
which
question still to you,
which
Eric, is
things.
how is Jesus Christ, how does Eric Blue sanctify Christ as Lord in your heart? How do you do that, Eric?
How do I do that? By identifying who is my Lord, which is Jesus Christ. Because
You know what
sanctify
the word
is to
sanctify means?
make.
You looked up the word sanctify. Have you looked that word up?
Sanctify is for me is something that is to be identified or known.
It means to make holy or to vote to. So Peter is saying you are to vote Christ as Lord in your heart. So my question again here
Yeah,
is
to make
it's not necessarily
to
about the
make holy.
theological application. It's about the application of living it out. How is Jesus Christ Lord in your heart?
Because I believe in him to be Lord,
What does that
and that
mean?
he died, and that he died for my sins, and that I have salvation through him, because Jehovah God the Father made him Lord, and gave him authority over everything.
Okay.
So since Jehovah God the Father made him Lord and gave him authority over everything, and he cannot do anything from his
You
own
know the word
initiative.
made, when you look it up, actually is actually talking about declared. Well, he wasn't made or created that way. He was declared Lord through his resurrection. That's why he is identified as Lord through his resurrection. So it wasn't that he was made into something he wasn't already, because he was already Lord prior to his incarnation and prior to his resurrection. You know that, right?
He was made Lord before his incarnation. How?
Do you not know that Hebrews 1:10, in context, the Father is speaking in reference to the Son, and the Father calls the Son Lord, which in the Old Testament is actually calling him Yahweh? Did you know that?
No, because in Hebrew, actually 110, I
I'll put
got
it on the
actual,
screen. I'll put it on the screen.
actual.
Let's give me 1 second here. I'll put it on the screen. We can see it. Hebrews 1:10. I'll put it on the screen so you can look at it. Here it is here. So here
And
it says here,
every
Jesus
time you
called.
call Jesus Christ Yahweh, you're just making a contradiction, my man. Okay, I'm gonna
Well, a
tell
little
you about
while
it
ago, you
later,
said
though.
only the Father is God, yet Jesus called God in numerous places in the New Testament, so you contradicted that.
Well, that is not what that scripture is talking about. I remember I've done the research on this before. Hold on, let me see here.
You've done research, Eric, and I respect you, but your research is wrong. I mean, Jesus called God all over the place in the New Testament. So if you're saying,
No, you
no,
think that
listen,
is
if you're
your
saying only the
that
Father
is your
is God,
interpretation.
then what
That's
kind
your
of God is Jesus?
interpretation.
Is Jesus a true or false God, Eric? Is Jesus a true or false God, Eric?
Jesus is
You said
not
only the Father is
God
the only true God.
himself.
So
Jesus
you
is
said a
not
while ago,
God.
only the Father is the true God. So what kind of God is Jesus?
He's not. He is like he is like God. He is a so-called God,
You said a moment ago, Eric, in
As
all your
John said.
presentation, trying to sound great,
Yeah,
only the
facts.
Father was the true God. So if Jesus is called God in the New Testament, many places, is Jesus a true or false God?
No, when John refers to Jesus as God, is God like.
Doesn't say that. Calls him
But
God.
no, it's God like, or a God. It's
Never
God
says a
like.
God. That's a fallacious interpretation
And
translation.
in Greek, the
And
translation
arche
that you could
logos
find
literally is
for
talking about
theos
the word.
is
Listen, I've studied this, Eric. And arche
and you know
logos
that it
is
says in
stating
Strong's
that
a God or
before
godlike.
time was, Eric, the word always was. And then it says, and kai halagas ein prostantheon, the word was face to face with the God, meaning the Father.
I'm
And
glad
then
you brought that
Kai
up.
Theos Ein Ha Logos is talking about the Word who is by nature God. So Jesus is not a God, he is by nature God. That's what the text actually says in the Greek.
All right, so basically the difference there's a difference between theon and theos, okay, in John 1:1. Theon is using the Greek the grammatical case of accusative, which shows the relationship of a direct object to a verb. But theos uses the grammatical
This
case
is the stuff
of a
you're reading online,
nominative,
Eric. You got stuff online.
which is used
Yeah.
for a noun or
Any
pronoun.
recognized Greek scholar would flush what you just said down the toilet about Jesus being a God according to what John 1:1
Do
says.
you
Literally,
understand the difference
literally,
between
even
theon and theos?
listen,
Are you listening to me?
even in the kingdom and the linear, even in the kingdom and the linear, it states God was the Word, a literal translation. There is no a there. A was inserted just like they did with the word other in Colossians
Let's
1:16 and
forget
17.
about the Greek. I mean, let's forget about the English translation and let's stick to the Greek. Okay.
The
So
Greek. Yeah.
In Greek, it says theon. So the logos is with theon, correct? Now the
The word.
grammatical case for that, there's a difference. There's a reason why there's a difference
Who is your
of
source,
theon.
Eric? Who is your source for Greek authority right now? Where are you getting your information from?
Bible Hub. You want to look it up? Let's go.
You want to go to Bible Hub.
Please, and thank you, please,
All right.
please.
Well, let me give me 1 second here before we go there. Let me go over there because there was something I asked you that I don't want to lose. Okay.
Okay.
I don't want to lose what I said a minute ago because we went somewhere else. We're in a rabbit trail. But here's
Yes, we
my point to
did.
you is we can bring up what you said a moment ago because I mentioned earlier I'm not going to be on very long. But we can. This is actually
Yes.
what I would suggest to you right now, Eric. Let's set up an actual discussion on John 1:1. Fair enough.
Okay. Yes.
That way, then we can both have a good, accurate equal time presentation response, just like we've done before, because we'd had a really good one a while back, right?
Yeah. I'm just
Yeah,
gonna let you finish up, and
yeah.
that's right. Yeah.
So here's what I
Because
want to
right now
share.
this is not going anywhere for a little bit of
No, I
time
got it.
left.
Yeah, because I don't want to like get in too much right now, and then all of a sudden be wasted. You know what I'm trying to say? That's what I'm
Yeah,
saying.
100%. Yeah,
Yeah,
this
yeah.
is too rushed. Yeah, we're just like blowing steam right now.
I don't want to do it a disservice. So here's what I was saying to you a second ago. Here's what I was saying to you a second ago. In Hebrews 1:10, here is talking about the Father, speaking about the Son. And it says on the screen, as you can see, it says, "You, Lord, in the beginning laid the foundation of the earth, and the heavens are the work of your hands. They will perish, but you remain, and they will become old like a garment, and like a mantle you will roll them up. Like a garment they will also be changed, but you are the same. Your years will not come to an end." Now, I don't know if you know where this reference is coming from, but the reference is from Psalm 102.
Yeah, I know it's coming from.
I'm just going to go there just briefly to show it, and I'll give you an opportunity to give a response. Psalm 102. So here we know the very beginning here, "Hear my prayer, O Lord," and it goes on and on. So in the context here, as we scroll down, talking about the Lord, here's where we get here. We'll start in verse 24. "I say, oh my God, do not take me away from the midst of my days. Your years are throughout all generations. Of old you founded the earth. The heavens are the work of your hands. Even they will perish, but you endure. And all of them will wear out like a garment. Like clothing, you will change them, and they will be changed. But you are the same. Your years will not come to end." So in this verses here, who is the author of Psalms identifying? Who is he talking about?
Oh, it's saying, "Oh my God!" So it's identifying uh Jehovah.
Okay, it's fair enough. So in the context, the reason why I bring that up, because the author of Hebrews, he gets to verse 10. He talks about many verses here. To which of the angels did he ever say, "You're my son"? None. He then again brings his firstborn in the world. He says, "Let all the angels of God worship him." He says, "The angels who makes his angels winds, ministers of fire." Of the Son, he says, "Your throne, O God." And we know these verses here. The reason why I pointed this out is in verse 10, it continues. And it says, "You, Lord." So the Father is still speaking in reference to the Son, and he calls the Son Lord, which in Psalm 102 is Yahweh. So do you agree or disagree that the Father actually calls the Son Yahweh?
Well, it doesn't start there. Actually, before that, in verse 9, it actually
Oh, I know.
starts.
That's why, well, it actually starts in verse 5. It's actually where it actually all begins. That's why I started a little while ago. But my point that my question to you though
By
is,
my son.
yeah, yeah,
So,
sorry, I'll go
so
back. So yeah, so here, like I said, I'll go slow. For which of the angels did he ever say? So see here, he, so this is talking about the Father in reference to the Son. Today I begotten you, and
no,
again
no,
I'm
I'm talking about in Psalms. So in Psalms, it actually starts in verse hold on, but of the son. So
what?
so so in verse 9, it speaks of the companion and the oil
Yeah,
and all that. So in verse 9, let me see. It says in 8, the thrones of God are forever, and righteous is scepter of the kingdom. No, actually, it starts at verse 8. So basically, from 8 all the way to, I believe, 12, it speaks of Psalms. So basically, this is a quotation. All right.
right.
So but
But before you get too
of the
long-winded,
Son.
here's the point of the Son. He says, verse 8, the Father calls the Son God. Verse 9, still speaking of the Son, he says, "You've loved
Your
righteousness and hated
throne,
lawlessness. Therefore,
God, is
God,
forever
meaning
and
the
ever.
Father, your God, has anointed you with the oil of gladness and above your companions." Verse 10, the Father still speaking, he calls the Son Lord, which is a reference
Okay,
back to Psalm
okay.
102. My
So
question to you
in
again
verse
is,
8, yeah.
Eric, my question to you again is, do you agree in verse 10 the Father is calling the Son Lord? Yes or no?
No, because in verse 8, if you look in the original Greek, it's speaking of how is it worded? Oh my goodness. Uh, where's my research at? Hold
Here, the
on.
Father calls the Son, "Your throne, O God," is a direct reference to Psalm 45, verse 5 and 6, back in that context. Verse 9 is another reference to an old psalm as well in the Old Testament. And verse 10 again is also a reference to the Old Testament. The point, though, here is the Father calls the Son in verse 8, God, and in verse 10, the Father calls the Son Lord, which you just agreed a moment ago in Psalm 102 that is speaking
Yeah.
about Jehovah.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
So in this right here on the screen, you, Lord, who is the Father speaking to here?
Oh, can we look at the Greek translation?
Is this not simple enough, though? I mean, this is
No, because certain translations this worded a certain way
whether
where
it's Yahweh in Hebrew or Yahweh in the Greek, it's still
no
the
is
same
the
context.
way is worded. It's because I remember in my research that it's worded differently in Greek.
But we go to the Hebrew. This is the Old Testament, right? So here, when it talks about here, of old you founded the earth. Who founded the earth here in verse 25? Who's speaking in Psalm 102:25? Of old you founded the earth. Who founded the earth?
Yeah, Jehovah founded the
Right?
earth.
The heavens are the work of your
Yahweh,
hands. Who is that speaking about? Who's that talking about?
and the heavens are a work of your hands. Yet speaking of Yahweh again.
Okay. Even they will perish, but you endure. Who's going to endure?
See, the thing is that the only one that the scriptures refer to when it comes to the Old Testament and when it comes to the forefathers and the prophets is only speaking of Jehovah, which is Yahweh. So in Hebrews 1:1, it clarifies that, and only later the is the son included in verse
So
2.
the problem we have here is we have a failure to communicate. So when we're looking at Hebrews 1, the whole context is talking about God after he spoke long ago to the fathers and prophets in many portions, many ways. In these last days, he's spoken to us how? In his son.
That's
Then
it.
it
Yep.
goes on talking about in verse 3, talks about he is a radiance of his glory, the exact representation of his nature. The Greek is hypostasis correctar, which means he is of the same nature and essence of the Father. Goes on talking about here how he sat down at the right head of the majesty on high. The author says, for to which of the angels did he ever say? It's rhetorical, meaning he never said to any angels, you are my son, I will be a father to him. He then, when he brings the firstborn into the world, he says, let all the angels of God worship him. These are, like you said, these are references to Psalms. I have no disagreement. The point here is that the whole
So
context here is let me
in
give you
verse
a last
8,
statement here. This
okay,
is
go
the
ahead.
point.
Go ahead. I'm
Whole
sorry. Go ahead.
context here is about the Father speaking in reference to the Son. And this is why I wanted to point you to verse 10. The Father calls the Son Lord, which is a direct quote in the context here back to Psalm 102 that you just agreed to is talking about Jehovah. So how in the world you can deny that the Father is actually calling the Son Jehovah here is beyond me.
Because in verse 8 is actually translated, God is your throne. So in
Which
verse
is still the
8,
same thing. It's still
no, it's
he's
not.
still called. But look,
It
look, look,
says
look, look, look. What of
your
the
throne,
Son?
oh
Look,
God.
what of the Son? What does he say? God is your throne. He calls the Son still God. You can't escape it.
No, God is your throne. Do you
He
understand?
calls. He says, but in reference
There's
to
a
the
big
Son.
difference
What's the first part
between.
of that verse? What's the first part? In reference to the Son, who is he speaking to?
No,
He's speaking to the Son.
he's speaking about the son, yes.
So
And it said,
God is your throne. He's speaking to the Son.
yes, God is your
So the
throne.
Son is called God by the Father.
Are you hearing yourself what you're saying? God is your throne. It doesn't mean
God
that
is
it's
your
saying
throne
that
forever and
Jesus is
ever. The
God.
scepter of your righteousness. He is calling
Is your
the Son.
throne.
He is calling the Son by identification, God there, and
No, that
he
doesn't mean
calls
that,
the
Kelly.
Son Lord. What's the next verse in 10? What does it say in the translation heaven for you? Read verse 10. What does
No.
verse 10 say? And
No,
whatever you have in front of you.
by verse 8, when it says God
Whatever
is your
translation you're
throne.
trying to manipulate in this conversation,
No,
please read verse
that's
10.
original Greek. No, you can look
What
at the
does verse
Greek.
10 say in the original
That's
Greek?
original Greek, Kelly.
What
That's
does
how
verse 10 say?
it's
Eric, what does
literally
verse 10
translated.
say? Eric, what does verse 10 say in front of you? Whatever you're reading from, what does it say?
Oh my goodness.
If you're going to act like an authority, be an authority.
And at the beginning, oh Lord, you laid the
Who's the
foundation
Lord there? Who's the
of
Lord
the
there?
earth. Speaking of Jehovah, but verse 8
And who's
is,
speaking? Who's
my
speaking?
goodness.
Who's speaking?
I suggest that you look at the original Greek
Who is speaking in verse 10?
and focus on
Eric,
what
who
is
is speaking in verse 10?
Jehovah,
And who
what's
is the
speaking.
Jehovah speaking to? Himself?
No,
Now you're a
Jehovah's not
oneness
speaking to
person.
himself.
You're either a
No,
oneness or you have to
Jehovah
acknowledge
is
the
not
Father
speaking
speaking
to
to the Son.
himself.
You're either a oneness or you have to acknowledge the Father is speaking to the Son and he calls him Jehovah.
No, no,
Yes.
no, no.
Eric, you're done for now,
He's
buddy.
not. He's not. Oh my goodness. You need to look at the original Greek
I
words
know
for
what it
verse
says,
8.
my friend, and you got to stop reading bad translations. So, anyway, thank you for being here, my friend. Eric, send me an email.
Okay.
We'll have a good discussion on John 1 1 later. Sound good?
Okay, got it.
Take care, my friend. Talk to you later. Have a good night.